My boyfriend's one cheated on him. On my birthday I was in a wreck. When the ambulance hauled me into Eastbrook, I ran straight into the man who'd sworn he was on a business trip. He hovered protectively over one, escorting her through the line for her 4-drip. At the corner we locked eyes, he stared, frozen, hunting for an excuse. I beat him to it, greeted him calmly, then turned and walked away. A guy who can't forget his one and a woman happy to play homewrecker, perfect match. After he and I split, the jerk lost everything, and even the baby one is carrying isn't his. 1. The night before my birthday, when Preston texted that he had to fly out and would miss the big day, I felt only a flicker of disappointment. I wasn't surprised at all. We'd been together 7 years, and we hadn't celebrated every birthday, he'd only shown up for homewrecker of them. Once when he was still chasing me, once in the thick of our honeymoon phase, and the last time after we'd broken up and patched things back together. Once the relationship leveled out, he stopped caring about meaningless rituals. The holiday gifts always arrived on time, but his presents didn't. We spent New Year's apart. I'd asked to bring him home to meet my parents, but he dodged with one excuse after another. He'd never once offered to take me to his family either. In time I got used to a life without surprises and quit obsessing over how to mark each occasion. This year I'd never expected him to stick around, so I'd said yes when Lynn and the others promised me a fun birthday. Then, a few days ago, Preston announced he was taking me out, said he'd already booked the restaurant. I felt guilty posting the update in our office group chat. They'd prepped for weeks and cleared their calendars. But they were totally understanding, even giddy. Is Preston finally proposing? A string of replies followed, to them we were solid, just busy. I reflexively shot the idea down, if Preston were going to propose, he'd never pick my birthday. He'd once declared that slipping a proposal or wedding into a day already loaded with meaning was nothing but a cheap way to scratch one future anniversary gift off the list. More importantly, Preston and I had been cold-shouldering each other for weeks. Ever since his one flew home, we hadn't finished a single conversation without it detonating into a fight. I couldn't even remember our last sweet, normal date. Lately he'd been vanishing, and I figured the breakup was maybe days away. Messages kept popping up on my phone. After telling me he couldn't make it, Preston transferred 10 grand so Lynn and I could party hard. But once they heard Preston was taking over tomorrow, they'd already booked themselves solid. I told myself it was just another solo birthday, nothing new. I accepted the transfer. He hadn't bothered with an actual present in ages. Every holiday, every birthday of his, I picked the gift. When the day came, he sent back a matching cash amount. The next morning, my birthday, I woke early. After I finished my usual busy work, I sat by the window with nothing to do. A birthday that felt like any other Tuesday. I glanced at the address of the restaurant Preston had chosen and decided I'd still go, treat myself to the cake I'd been craving. I drove out. Halfway there a semi swerved into my lane, pancaking the passenger side. My forehead slammed into the frame, my leg was mangled, blood everywhere. When the paramedics dragged me into Eastbrook I was filthy, soaked in red, a wreck. Propped on a stretcher, I couldn't move. As they wheeled me toward the ER, we rounded a corner and I spotted the boyfriend who'd been out of town since yesterday. He held a bottle of pills, whispering to someone in the corner. I blinked, wiped blood from my eyes, and yes, it was Preston. And the woman curled against him within 4 in her arm was his one, Stella. 2, maybe because I looked like a butcher's apron, Preston didn't recognize me at first. The moment the new nurses pushed me past them he did, panic cracked across his face. He sprang up, but Stella only brushed his hand and he froze, hovering to steady her. Maybe the gashes on my head and leg numbed everything else, I felt nothing. Just as they rolled me through the ER doors Preston rushed over, stared at the blood, and managed, "What happened to you?" "Fender bender. I'll live." I shrugged, voice gravel. He rooted in his backpack, produced a thermos meant for Stella, realized it, lowered it awkwardly. "I'll go buy you water." I stopped him before he bolted. "Don't bother. You're here on business with Stella, go take care of her." He stood with his back to me, I couldn't see his face. Before he could turn, the door swung shut behind me. The damage was worse than I thought, a 5-stitch gash across my forehead, bruises blooming everywhere, my leg stitched like a zipper. The doctor ordered me off my feet. When a nurse wheeled me out, Preston was still planted outside. He peppered her with questions. Did I need to stay overnight, any dietary restrictions? Then grabbed the wheelchair handles and pushed me to the infusion room. I didn't say a word. Needle in my arm, I watched Dale Murphy, the truck driver, arrive under police escort, apologizing and promising to cover every cent. After talking to the cops, Preston finally saw the insurance photos, color drained from his cheeks. You call this a fender bender? I kept my voice flat. Inside voice, this is a hospital. Every patient in the room was staring. The cop and the driver had already caused a scene. He apologized to the room, crouched behind me. It's okay, you're safe. I'm here. I almost laughed, nodding toward Stella holding her bag opposite us. Someone's still waiting. He started to answer, but Stella called his name, and he stood. His gaze pinballed between us. Eve. Stella's almost done. I'll walk her to the exit and come right back. Yet the second he saw how pale she looked, he abandoned me. I knew the drill. Whenever on he beckoned, he disappeared. I watched drip after drip until both bags were empty. Then I asked the nurse to pull the needle, wheeled myself to check out, and waited for my rideshare. Sitting there, I finally replayed the last 7 years. Preston had pursued me, and I, secretly crushed on him forever, said yes in a heartbeat. But marriage never came up. When I nudged, he waved it off. Too soon, too busy, not ready, later. I understood, made excuses, until I stepped outside the relationship and saw the truth. He'd never stopped loving his first love. 3. I'd thought 7 years of loyalty would earn me a permanent place in his heart. Stella's return proved how wrong I was. In the end, neither Preston nor the rideshare showed. Lynn did. The former track star lifted me from the chair like I weighed nothing, folded the wheelchair, tossed it in her trunk. She still thought Preston was out of town, afraid I'd be helpless alone. She took me home with her. That had to hurt. Lynn studied my injuries with heartbreak in her eyes, then ordered half the grocery store online, swearing she would fatten me back up. As soon as you're on your feet, we're hitting the temple and burning every last scrap of bad luck. She declared I was cursed, totaled on my birthday, of all days. I laughed and said sure, but my ringtone sliced the sentence in half. Preston's name flashed. Eve, you still at Eastbrook? Good smells drifted from the kitchen, and I realized I was starving. Irritation leaked into my voice. What else do you want? I'm checking on you. I'm your boyfriend, am I not allowed to ask where you are? I watched Lynn set platters on the table and answered, ice cold, so you are my boyfriend. From the pitiful display last night I thought you were Stella's. He swallowed hard, staying quiet until Lynn finished ferrying dishes, then tried again. You don't have the full picture. Stella spiked a fever plus a nasty bout of gastro. She's alone in this city. We've known each other forever. I can't just abandon her. Same script, different day. I'd memorized it 2 years ago. The day after Stella flew back from London, she'd claimed jet lag and food poisoning, and Preston had sprinted to her side. 2 years, and she hasn't collected a single friend. Sarcasm soaked every word. She's not like you, she's introverted. The reflexive excuse rolled off his tongue. I'd heard enough. Got it. Go take care of her, then. I hung up mid-sentence. Lynn, who'd heard everything while balancing soup bowls, cursed him out on my behalf. He'll show up later. Want me to tell him you're out? She asked, ladling broth. I didn't want to go home, but I wouldn't freeload. I'll head back. You've got work tomorrow. She chewed her chopsticks, counting her remaining PTO days. I shook my head, smiling. Aren't you saving those days for a trip with your boyfriend? He'll sulk if you burn them on me. She thumped her chest, gallant. So what? I wouldn't bend, I'd caused enough disruption. After dinner I packed up while Lynn attacked the dishes, then parked myself in the living room to wait. Preston never came. I knew exactly where he was, and sure enough my phone buzzed again, this time a WhatsApp from Stella. Eve, I'm so sorry. I felt awful and begged Preston to take me to Eastbrook. Were you in an accident? I saw all that blood and nearly fainted. Feeling better? Want Preston to bring you soup? There it was, the victory lap. Every time she stole him she followed up with a sugary brag. I sat in my wheelchair, purse in my lap, and thumb-typed one-handed. He's with you right now? Yep. Since the gastro docs put me on clear fluids, Preston's cooking. Come join us if you're bored. A video popped up, Preston in an apron mincing garlic. I screenshotted everything and forwarded it to him. Only after the food was plated did he write back, Stella's been overseas so long her manners are warped. Don't take it personally. You two honestly deserve each other. Stop that. You're my girlfriend. She's NLY my childhood. To change the subject he added, what should I cook for you tomorrow? I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. 7 years, and Preston had never cooked for me, not even instant noodles. I'd always loved puttering in the kitchen, so you're the better chef became his permanent excuse. Funny, turns out he can cook just fine. Lynn patted my back, pretended not to notice my tears. and rolled me to the bathroom. Fresh sheets followed, plus orders to sleep. I was cocooned in blankets when Preston's brother rang. I powered the phone off. Morning arrived on a wave of breakfast aromas. Lynn, guessing I'd be sore, had prepped every soft, healing food imaginable. I eased into my wheelchair and rolled out to find her whispering to her boss over the counter. I should have left yesterday, now she'd burn a half day of PTO for me. The moment she hung up I said, go to work. I'll grab a cab home. Her eyes narrowed at the gauze on my forehead and the brace on my leg. And if you fall when you're alone? After breakfast I insisted, not wanting to burden her further. I speed dialed Preston. He didn't pick up, Stella did. Sorry, Eve. Preston was up all night with me and just crashed. Need me to wake him? The room was quiet. Lynn still heard every syrupy word and looked ready to explode. I raised a hand. Calmly I said, Stella, if your playbook were any thinner you'd be transparent. Tell me, why, after 2 years, hasn't Preston dumped me and reproposed to you? A pause, then the saccharine act resumed, because we're only childhood. He thinks of me as family. Don't misread us. Disgust corked my throat. I ended the call. Lynn drove me home, Preston's and my home, and deposited me on the couch. I limped through the day alone until noon the next day, when Preston finally appeared. I was handing off projects, medical leave paperwork open on my lap, and he rushed over as though he were the invalid. I'm back, Eve. I hit send on the last file, closed the laptop, and stood. IED him. So, where's my home-cooked meal? Without a flicker he wheeled me to the living room, flicked on the TV, and murmured, I'll shop right now. Oh, you do cook? Practice on Stella much? Halfway to the door he froze, hurried back, and knelt, clutching my hand. Her parents asked me to look after her. She's always been fragile, so I nodded. Sure. My parents never made that request, probably because you never met them. Eve. He sounded wounded. I'll take PTO and stay with you. Let's not fight. I'll nurse you back to health, then go back to work. I turned off the TV. Preston, are you short on things to do? I'll cancel meetings for you. I gave a slow headshake. I'm swamped. If you're bored, take a business trip. I let the 2 words drip acid. They were the same words he'd used to justify sleeping at Stella's. Silence. My snide remark always flipped his switch. He'd accuse me of jealousy, never once noticing the insecurity he fed. His darkening face almost made me smile. Almost. We slipped into a fresh Cold War. He stewed, then still cooked an elaborate dinner and wordlessly wheeled me to the table. I never lifted my chopsticks. When he was halfway through his rice he snapped, slammed the utensils down, and barked, You demanded I cook, so why the hell aren't you eating? I swirled the glass in my hand, the warm water inside was already gone. I lifted my head and looked straight at him. These dishes, they're all Stella's favorites, aren't they? I have a light palate, I never touch spice. The surgeon also warned me to avoid anything hot while I heal. But Stella's taste is the exact opposite. She loves chilies, the more the better, so many that the dish itself disappears under a landslide of red. So whose preferences are laid out on this table, really? Preston and I have been together 7 years, how could he not know I can't eat chili? He said nothing, but I nodded anyway. Then I won't eat. Preston finally lost it. What exactly do you and Stella have against me? Can't you just say it straight instead of this sarcastic routine? You said you wanted food, I cooked it. What more do you want? I set the empty mug down and sighed. I've never eaten spicy food. His face strained a shade. I went on, the doctor told me no chili either. Can you even cook a dish without heat? Only then did he realize what he'd done, yet years of taking me for granted kept him from apologizing. I was past the urge to scream. Watching his mute stubbornness, I said, I also don't want you and Stella so close. Maybe a sliver of hope still clung to me. So will you keep your distance from her? The moment the words left my mouth his expression twisted, as though I were the one throwing tantrums. His face clouded, voice heavy, how many times must I tell you, she's just a sister to me now, family. We grew up together, I can't abandon her. My face stayed blank, but I felt tears threatening. 7. I wheeled myself backward, inching to the master bedroom door, then looked at him. Preston, one last question, her or me? Must you be this unreasonable? He slapped the table and stood. I gave a small nod, I had his answer. I rolled inside and, before shutting the door, said, fine. Then we're done. The door clicked shut. I glanced around this bedroom that still breathed our shared life and began packing the few things that were mine. Outside, Preston finally processed what I'd said. He rushed over, pounding louder than any fight we'd ever had. Eve, what do you mean, break up? Open the door. Talk to me. Listening to his hysterics, it felt like our roles had flipped. I couldn't stand my boyfriend orbiting another woman, then blaming me for being petty when I complained. Back then I'd been the one shrieking. After every Stella quarrel, Preston would hide in his home office, and I, just like him now, would hammer on the wood, hoarse from begging. No mirror showed me, but I bet my face was ugly. Now the parts were reversed, the calm one tastes sweet revenge. The pounding didn't stop, and I found it almost funny. When silence finally came, a WhatsApp popped up. Eve, I think you need to cool off. Don't toss the word breakup around, say it too often and it sticks. I didn't answer. The man revolted me. He'd savored my devoted caretaking while chasing the thrill Stella gave him. Why should the universe let Preston have everything? I wanted out, yet 7 years felt too heavy to walk away from empty-handed. I wheeled to the bedside. Only a day post-crash, and even from a wheelchair I could manage. I burrowed under the quilt and stared at the ceiling, lost. Next morning I woke early, the itch along my incision had kept me awake. As I rolled out, Preston stepped through the front door carrying soup, dumplings, and soy milk from the corner stand. Without a word he set them on the dining table, then pushed me to wash up. I'd assumed he'd spent the night with Stella, but apparently not. After he parked me at the table and arranged the breakfast, pretending last night hadn't happened, I stared at the dumplings and didn't move. Preston sneered, "These are the soup dumplings you love, not Stella's favorites." A jab at my words from yesterday. My stomach cramped. I realized I hadn't eaten since lunch the day before. I bit into a steaming bun, sipped the unsweetened soy milk, and discovered the food he'd fetched tasted ordinary. So what had I been longing for all this time? 8. Preston kept cracking jokes. I just wanted quiet and calories, so I ignored him. When I finished, I grabbed my laptop and rolled toward the door. He was taking out the trash. Seeing me, he dashed over. "Where are you going?" "To the office." "In your condition?" Shock and disbelief. "Handover meeting." I rolled into the elevator. "I'll drive you." He followed, anxious. I didn't object, his car saved me cab fare. On the ride he glanced between the road and me, fishing for conversation, but I stared out the window and stayed mute. I replayed yesterday's talk with Harris. After I passed my current project to a colleague, he'd mentioned a relocation assignment to the Westmont branch. They'd planned to send me, but the crash put me on hold. I'd asked for details and begged him to keep the slot open, promising I'd be on my feet next month. Today's meeting was to finalize it. While I daydreamed, his voice drifted over, tinged with hurt. "Eve, talk to me. Don't freeze me out." But I had nothing left to say. Once, I filled every silence, now the well was dry. Early on he'd admitted he wasn't social, yet loved my chatter. My energy lifted him. After Stella resurfaced, he sneered that my babbling looked pathetic. Now he finally felt what one-sided conversation costs. "Finding topics is hard," he muttered, wounded. Maybe he finally understood the exhaustion of solo dialogue, but so what? He was only trying to lure me back into orbit. He rolled me to my desk, whispered, "Go on, I'll wait," then stepped back, waving from the doorway. Certain I'd thawed, he texted instantly, "I'll book a table. After your meeting we'll celebrate, clear the bad luck." Okay. I rolled into Harris's office and accepted the Westmont post. He frowned at my bandages, but when I swore I'd be walking next month he agreed. Capable talent is scarce out there. "Think it through," he warned. "Startups are brutal, late nights every day." I smiled. "I'm in. Just late nights." When I first joined Sterling Harris I pulled them routinely, but once Preston's hours grew insane I chose the softer track, surrendering promotions so one of us could breathe. Even at routine team happy hours, I would duck out early with the excuse that my boyfriend was waiting at home. When I was little, I was always alone in the apartment, every lamp blazing while I waited for my parents to come back. On the nights they never showed, I'd fall asleep on the couch. After that, I promised myself, when I finally had a home of my own, I'd never leave the person I loved sitting there waiting, lonely. But adult me is no different from that child. Back then I waited for my parents, now I wait for Preston. The house is still empty, I'm still the only one in it. After assuring Harris and Homewrecker that I'd refocus on work, I wheeled myself out of the office. I kept rereading the papers in my lap, suddenly realizing how stupid I'd been to give up a promotion for Preston. I rolled back to my cubicle, gathered my things, and waited for Preston to pick me up. Predictably, all I got was a single WhatsApp message. 9. Sorry, Eve. Something urgent came up, I can't make dinner. I booked you a rideshare, it'll be downstairs. Go home and rest. I already ordered food, eat and turn in early. I laughed in disgust. Why had I expected anything else? I opened Stella's chat and typed, "Is Preston with you?" Her reply arrived in seconds, making me wonder if she'd been camped on her phone waiting for me to ask. "Sorry, Eve, my stomach's killing me. I couldn't find anyone else, so I asked Preston to bring my meds. Don't be mad, he'll come get you in a minute." I screenshotted it, posted it to my feed with the caption, "I'm actually shipping these too." Preston called within seconds. I declined, then blocked him. By the time I'd packed my desk and slowly wheeled to the garage, his car appeared. He jumped out, gallantly took the box from my lap, stowed it in the trunk, lifted me into the back seat, folded the wheelchair, and only then climbed in. That was when I noticed Stella riding shotgun. "Sorry, Eve, I figured your leg hurts and the back seat would be roomier, so I took the front. We can swap if you want." The second Preston shut his door, Stella launched into her act. "No need." I didn't want to talk to her, so I answered coldly. She shrank as if I'd barked. She glanced timidly at Preston. "She's still upset, right? I should give her the seat." Instead of the usual comforting, Preston clicked his tongue in irritation. Stella looked even more wounded. Only when I stopped caring about did Stella's face finally come into focus. She really was beautiful. Back in college she'd been the undisputed belle. Preston, claiming childhood privilege, had chased her for months before he finally won her. Their romance had been campus legend until her whole family moved abroad and they lost touch. Years later, Preston started pursuing me. From the back seat, for the first time without jealousy, I studied them. Campus sweethearts, no wonder they looked perfect together. Stella caught my gaze in the rearview mirror and smiled lightly. "Eve, what are you thinking?" "That you two match pretty well," I said, smiling back. Preston hit the brakes. If traffic had allowed, I swear he would have stopped dead. "Stop talking nonsense." He was annoyed. "Not nonsense, just the truth." I shrugged, unafraid. Funny, when I used to treat their bond like a national crisis, he never reacted this way. "Eve, you're still mad. Preston and I are ancient history, just childhood who grew up together, that's all." She twisted around, all wounded innocence. "We only dated because we mistook family affection for love, thank God we ended it in time." Her tone was earnest, Preston's face darkened. "Enough. Love and indifference are equally obvious." When Preston and I fought and split, he didn't flinch. But when Stella denied their past, he brooded, hurt, heartsore. "See? Affection is like a cough, impossible to hide." 10. Stella didn't join us for dinner, Preston dropped her off first. As she got out, she looked as reluctant as an exile. Preston, equally unwilling, turned his head away. "If you're that sad, take her to dinner and just drive me home," I said without looking up. "I'm not," Preston insisted. He denied it, so I let it go. We ate the rest of our meal in silence. On the way back, he finally spoke. "Sorry. I shouldn't have promised," and then backed out. Look at that, Preston apologizing first? Had the sun risen in the west? "It's fine. I don't mind. A heart already dead doesn't wait for epilogue." "Yes. You're not angry?" His face seemed paler. "I'm used to it, Preston. Ever since Stella came back 2 years ago, haven't you always chosen her?" The car was quiet, my voice soft. "When she first returned, she had nowhere to stay, no friends, couldn't manage anything, of course she needed her childhood." I understood. "But 2 years is enough time for desensitization therapy. I've grown accustomed to you picking her over me." Through the rearview mirror I watched the color drain from his face as I asked, "Can you swear you never once wanted her during those years?" We stopped in our building's garage. Preston gripped the wheel. I'll change. She needs to build her own life." He unfolded my wheelchair in silence and lifted me into it. Once I was back in the master bedroom, I spoke again. "I mean it, Preston, we're done." He blocked the door, stubborn. "No. I love you, Eve. I won't break up." His sudden declaration made me laugh. While he stared, bewildered, I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. "Preston, in 7 years this is only the second time you've said you love me. The first had been the day he asked me out. My transfer paperwork for the new Westmont branch is ready, I just need to get out of this chair. I follow doctor's orders to the letter, early to bed, early to rise, meals timed like clockwork. The sooner I can stand, the sooner I can leave this suffocating place." Preston rang while I was at my follow-up. After a kind college wheeled me down one corridor, I declined his call. When he kept trying, I finally texted back, "Check up." Scrolling through our thread now, I see our roles have flipped. He starts conversations, I answer in ice. Tests done, prescription in hand, I reached the exit, and found Preston waiting like the devoted boyfriend he'd never been, gently pushing me toward the parking lot. Yet I'd come to every appointment alone until I reminded him I was still a patient. "Why didn't you ask me to come?" he reproached. "I can manage." My tongue. He stayed flat. "So, have you thought it over?" I looked up at him. Preston's face was taut. He pushed me to the garage without a word. 11. I've done some real thinking. I know I messed up. I'll fix it. Eve, please, don't end us. He opened the passenger door and reached to lift me in, but I stopped him. "Preston, I don't sit where Stella has Saturday." His complexion darkened. Without a word he carried me to the front seat. "I'll get the car detailed tomorrow. From now on, the passenger side is only for you." "No need." I refused at once, but he didn't answer, just drove. Back home, Preston played the attentive boyfriend, even warming water to sponge me down. "Did you do these things for Stella too? In all those business trips you lied about, did you sleep with her?" I tilted my head back to meet his eyes, stubbornly demanding an answer. The lukewarm washcloth splashed into the steaming basin. Disappointment carved his face. "Is that really the kind of man you think I am? So you didn't?" I refused to answer, I only kept asking. His expression flickered through half a dozen colors. I guessed he had pictured it, he'd simply never taken the final step. But none of that mattered anymore. I was so damn tired. Fine, ceaseless threads of pain and itch under the gauze had robbed me of sleep for nights. I looked at Preston, calm and final, and voiced my last request: "Let's break up." "I mean it." He tried to hold me, to pull me into his arms. I sidestepped. "Preston, I honestly don't love you anymore. Let me go, okay?" While I packed my bags we had the loudest fight of our lives. It was the first time I'd seen him that furious, nothing like the arguments before. Yet when I snapped the suitcase shut he knelt beside me again, pleading, "Don't do this, please?" 7 years, we walked every day of them together. Can you really bear to leave me alone? I shook my head. In the end I checked myself into Eastbrook. Preston acted as if my refusals were a foreign language, showing up every single day, bringing meals, wheeling me to tests, sitting through every 4 drip. The other patients in the ward praised him as the perfect boyfriend. I found the show darkly amusing, so I said, "Preston, swear you'll cut Stella off for good and I'll take you back." "You know I can't, Eve. Our families go way back, too many threads to sever, but I promise she'll never appear in front of you again." See? Exactly the same man. I ignored him, pulled the blanket over my head, and pretended to sleep. He kept tending me with absurd devotion. All I felt was nausea. Affection that arrives late is cheaper than weeds. Watching him, I saw my old self reflected. The more desperately he performed love, the more I craved escape. I needed distance, clean and absolute, a total farewell. With the doctor's help, and my own stubbornness, I learned to stand. My gait was still clumsy, but the world felt lighter the moment I was upright. The day I was discharged I raced back to Sterling Harris to sign my exit papers, already savoring the new life waiting in the next city. Lately Preston had been swamped. A coworker told me the firm had landed a whale of a client, so he was whining and dining them nonstop. I seized the lull to slip home and sort what was left. I never expected to open the door and find Stella inside. Her hair dripped as she stepped out, fresh from Preston's shower. Seeing me, she smiled. "Eve, you're out of hospital. My water heater died, so I borrowed Preston's bathroom. You don't mind, right? 25 minutes across town is closer than the guest suite downstairs?" Interesting logic. I sneered, brushed past, and headed for the master bedroom. The sheets carried the unmistakable imprint of an outsider, but my face stayed blank. Stella trotted after me, breathless with explanation. "I got in late last night and Preston insisted I stay. Don't be upset." Watching me fold clothes, she widened her eyes theatrically. "Planning a vacation?" 12. I finally paused, turned, and met her gaze. Preston and I are finished, so feel free to move in, forever, if you like. You can actually walk away from him? The mask slipped, malice glittered. With your resume, finding another catch like him won't be easy. I zipped the suitcase and walked out. While I waited for the elevator she chased me down the corridor. "Preston and I are only friends. If I caused a breakup I'd never forgive myself." "Stella, is being a homewrecker really that fun? Addictive, even?" I stared at her, stone-faced. "We're completely innocent," she sing-songed. I smiled back. "Guess whether the bedroom has a security camera." Her face frosted. "Watch your tone, Eve. Save the tricks for Preston. Don't waste them on me." The elevator arrived. I stepped inside and delivered a final glance as the door slid shut. Push me further and see how much dirt I are holding. Her snarl vanished behind metal, and I was finally free. I cleared security, boarded, and buckled in just as my phone buzzed. Preston on WhatsApp. Eve, nothing happened with Stella. I never let her into the bedroom, she sneaked in. I swear I'll cut her off for good. Where are you? I'm coming to get you. The engines roared. I blocked him mid-sentence, cutting the past loose. Half a year later I heard his name again. By then I'd carved my niche at the Westmont office and earned my promotion. I burned my PTO touring every city on my wish list. I'd blacklisted Preston, but gossip still trickled through friends. He'd been hunting for me, and everyone tactfully stayed silent. The latest bulletin, he and Stella were divorcing. Yes, 2 months after our split they'd filed papers. Stella's bump had insisted on a wedding, Preston obliged. The timeline disgusted me, proof they'd been sleeping together within weeks of my exit. Neighbors, tired of the screaming matches, kept phoning building management. Apparently every fight circled back to me. Stella banned him from saying my name, yet everything reminded him of me. Their marriage already mere. Roared the final stretch of ours. I thanked every star I'd refused to drown with them. Eventually Preston fled to the office to escape the chaos. Stella stormed the building, belly first, until Preston roared, I can't stop thinking about Eve, what do you want from me? A spectator posted the blow-up in the office group chat. Harris caught the thread, decided Preston couldn't manage a project if he couldn't manage his life, and yanked him from the team. Crushed, Preston took the fight public. Someone mailed the drama to a gossip blog, and a stranger stepped forward claiming to be Stella's baby daddy. She'd slept with him while still angling for Preston, no protection, she'd whined it ruined the moment. The man didn't want cash, he demanded she terminate, his family had assets, and no questionable bastard would siphon them. The spectacle climaxed in a paternity test that screamed match. Preston slapped Stella the day the results arrived. After the abortion came divorce papers, but the cooling-off period still bound him. The final update, his spectacle tanked Sterling Harris's image, so his title kept shrinking. He's now one step from termination, and Stella still clings like tar. Career, love, both torched. The man I once dated feels like fiction. When the tale ended I set the phone down. I'm done with that chapter. Whatever becomes of Preston and Stella no longer stirs me. Only gratitude remains, gratitude that I stepped off the tracks before the wreck. Outside my window the sun throws gold across a faultless sky, bright as every mile that waits ahead.